Hi, Seattle. You're probably wondering why I got my sweater on today. Well, I just wanted to say that it's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. I'm kind of changing up how I do things a little bit because there was a lady on a video that I posted on, and she said that my videos were ranty sounding because I guess being passionate about something and being upset with people and calling them out is offensive. So I'm going to start out with a song. Could you be my neighbor? How would you like to be my neighbor? Because it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Well, that's not really me. I don't do stuff like that. I'm sorry if she got upset about it. But I'm just really passionate about Seattle. I really am. And I'm sorry if people feel upset about my videos. I'm not doing these videos to get 1 million likes. I'm not doing these videos to get thousands and thousands of subscribers. I just want somebody to read. I just want somebody to watch my video and possibly think a little bit about how they're living in Seattle, why they moved there, the reasons behind being there. Out of all the places you can move, why did you pick a city that you know absolutely nothing about? That don't make any sense to me. But I get ranty and I use a few curse words when I feel passionate about something. I've always been like that, and I like to speak with feeling. I like to convey thoughts, and I like you to get into my train of thought. I don't want to derail your train off of your track, but I'm hoping that when you come up to a fork in the track and you can go right or left, that if you would normally go left, I'm hoping you would steer right, or at least think about steering right. People don't consider the reason that they're moving to Seattle could be what's causing the rents to stay high and the cost of living to be high. When you've got tons and tons of people moving to a city that doesn't have enough housing to house people, one of two things will happen. People will start opening up their house because they know they can gouge you for money. Like a person that's got a 4-bedroom house and they're only using 1 bedroom. They rent out the other 3 for like $1,000 a month, when maybe their mortgage is only 1,000 and something a month. And you take that room because you went through all the trouble of moving to Seattle. You've got a lot of emotional investment sewn up into this, or tied up into this move. You're gonna make it work even if it kills you. You don't give a crap if you have to eat in a soup kitchen. You don't give a crap if you have to do your laundry by beating it on a rock in a creek. You're going to stay there because you went through all the trouble of moving. And you'll be angry at yourself if you have to move back. Now, where I live at, we've got about 145 people that live in our apartment building. We got the north building, the south building, and the row houses back over here. There's a guy that lives in my building. He's making enough money. He's making at least $3,000 a month. He can afford to move out and get a regular apartment. If you can't live on $3,000 a month, there's something really wrong with that picture. Under normal circumstances, that is. Well, he moved out. Then he realized that he couldn't have the lifestyle he was accustomed to like he did when he was living here. So he moved back. Then he decided to go down to Texas, and he decided to make a go of it down there. And then he found out that it was too expensive to live down there. He couldn't afford it. So he moved back to the same apartment building. Different apartment, same apartment building. Stuff like that irritates the heck out of me. When you don't consider the cost of what you're doing before you do it, like you tell all your friends, oh yeah, I'm going to move to Seattle and it's going to be great and I'm going to get a nice job working for Microsoft and I'm going to be studying at the U of M or the UW and University of Washington, and I'm going to be doing all this stuff and everything's going to be great. I'm going to be going out every night partying and going to fancy coffee drinks at these coffee shops and what have you. Then when you get there, you have to rent a room from somebody out of their house because there's no apartments available for you to help and move into because there's a waiting list of up to like 3 years on apartments. I know this because I've been doing my homework. Unlike a lot of knuckleheads that move to Seattle that don't do no legwork whatsoever, sometimes you got to be your own looky-loo. You've got to get on Google Maps. You have to find places you like. You have to get on Google Maps and get on the street level, find out where you're going to be at or where you want to be at, look around the neighborhood and see if everything around you looks nice. You got to find out how close it is to where you want to work. You got to find out how far it is traffic-wise. Is it going to be cost-effective for you? Can you maybe walk to the Space Needle, hop on a monorail, and take it into downtown Seattle to get a job? Then, after you get to Seattle, and you find out you not only have to rent a room from somebody for $1,000 a month, you also find out that that fancy job you thought you were going to try to get at Microsoft, they're booked up and they're not hiring right now. Amazon's not hiring and Facebook's not hiring. So then you got to get a job working at the Pike Place Market or working at the little convenience store on the corner or working at a restaurant that can still be open because they just upped the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which if you want to make $15 an hour, go to school, learn a trade like carpentry or what have you, and go get a job doing that for $15 an hour. Minimum wage was not supposed to be a skilled labor job. It was supposed to be for people getting out of high school, going into college, so you can learn what it's like to do work. You can learn what the responsibility is, getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, getting a paycheck, paying bills, moving out of your mom's basement, getting an apartment, things of that nature. That's what it was made for, but it's become a regular job now. There is no such thing as minimum wage, high school going into college jobs, like working at Dag's, working at Dick's hamburgers or what have you, working at Subway, working at Burger King, McDonald's. Unless you're trying to go up the food chain and become a manager or become a district manager or own your own store, then working that job for the rest of your life is not supposed to be a job that's sustaining you. By them allowing you to work there forever, they're enabling you to be poor all your life. You'll never want to go to college. You'll never want to get a degree. Hell, there's online schools that you can get a degree working on the internet from your house. You can be working a part-time job or working a minimum wage job and going to school, going to like these online universities, and you can get an Appella University or Phoenix University or whatever online, and you can get a degree and possibly get a job. Or you might find out that Seattle is too expensive for you to live there, and since you don't really love Seattle, and you're willing to stay there even if you're broke and homeless because you love Seattle that much, you can up and move anywhere, because that means that people that just moved to Seattle for no reason can be happy living anywhere for no reason. And y'all are making it difficult on everybody to actually love Seattle that wants to live in Seattle, because we can no longer afford to do that. Why? Why do we have to suffer because you made a stupid mistake and moved to a city that you can't afford to live in? Why does somebody like me, who loves every single thing about Seattle, the smells, I could be out, the air is so clean in Seattle, I could be out, especially downtown, and I could just sniff in the air, and I could spot 3 or 4 different pizza joints on the way down to Pioneer Square from where the Pike Place Market's at. I could smell fish in the air from restaurants that are making fish. Fresh roasted coffee in the morning. I can smell that in the air. I could smell bakeries that are baking fresh bread. The air is so clean that before it rains, a half hour to 45 minutes before it rains, I can smell the rain in the air coming through the trees. I can smell the salt in the air. And I can feel the mist as it's just starting to set in with a nice fog. How many people that just up and moved to Seattle can experience Seattle like that? How many people can hear the wind coming through the trees slowly after it rains and it's cool, or it's warmed up a little bit coming from the Puget Sound, or you can sniff Elliott Bay. Sometimes I just want to sit down and I want to cry. I do. I want to sob and bawl like a little baby that's missing their mother. I wasn't born in Seattle. I wasn't raised in Seattle. I came to Seattle by accident. I didn't even know about Seattle at all. God brought me to Seattle. And like a prodigal son that wants to come home, I cannot do that now because the rent is too high and the cost of living is too high. My purgatory is not being able to move back to a city that I love because of something I did really stupid when I was much younger. Now I'm going to tell you a little story about how I found Seattle. Right after my son's mother, who I wasn't married to, but I was wanting to marry, decided that she could raise our son better. I'm not pointing a finger at her, I'm just telling you the story. She could raise our son better. She fell in love with the guy she was working with at her job. He was a doctor, and she told me that it was best that I didn't stay, that I wasn't able to help raise my son. She could do it better, and my whole world went crashing down around me, and I started to hitchhike a bit, and I came into Topeka, Kansas on my journeys from Iowa. I stopped into Topeka, Kansas. I stayed there for about 4 months. I was stranded, and I met this girl. She had just turned 18. I was 24 at the time, and I met this girl. And I fell in love with her, or so I thought. It was more of an infatuation because being an artist, certain women I'm attracted to, and I find beauty in all things. I find beauty in all women. No matter how you look, I can find something beautiful about you. And I'm a firm believer that no matter how you look or who you are, you have at least one really good photograph inside you waiting to come out if the right photographer bumps into you. So anyway, I met this girl and she got homesick, and I took her to Everett, Washington, which is outside of Seattle. And I took her back home. She went to go live with her mom. Things didn't work out between me and her, and I went down to Seattle because I wanted a bigger city. Everett was kind of small and a little rinky-dink. For people that like Everett, it's a great place. Lindale, it's a great place. If you like that, it's more rural feeling and more homely feeling. I kind of like a bigger city, you know. So I went to Seattle. And I tell you, as soon as I got there, I got a room staying at the Concorde. I got a room staying at the Concorde Hotel. It was costing me about, at that time, it was costing me about maybe $75 a week to live in that room. I didn't have an apartment yet. I just got a room. And I started to go around Seattle, downtown Seattle, Pike Place Market, Pioneer Square, Chinatown, the Space Needle. I've had lunch there several times. It's really nice. I've had dinner there a couple times. Dinner's okay, but I prefer the lunchtime. I'm not a big coffee drinker, although I do love the smell of coffee. And I do love the smell of fresh roasted coffee, especially in the morning. So anyway, I stayed at the Concorde Hotel, which is no longer there. It's been turned into condominiums, I think. Condos or luxury flats or studios or what have you, because the city wanted to re-gentrify itself and get rid of all the poor people since I lived there. So anyway, I was in Seattle, and I was on the internet. This was back in '96. I didn't know too much about the internet at that time. I had done text-only internet, but not a lot of graphics. And I met this girl that lived in Minneapolis. And we hit it off, and for a year, everything seemed like it was going in the right direction. So I thought, like an idiot, instead of just going to Minneapolis and seeing what it was like for a day or two or maybe a week, finding out how she was, I stuck all my eggs into a basket. I carried that basket to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I have been stuck there ever since. Now, God has provided me a way to go back to Seattle when things were much cheaper, but I did not take the offer that he put in front of me. And 9/11, although it was a very horrible incident that happened, a lot of people died for no good reason. A lot of people suffered for no good reason. Right after 9/11 happened, and a few months after that, the airlines were offering free airfare. I could have got on an airplane when I didn't have a whole lot of stuff in my apartment. I hadn't accumulated much. I could have got on an airliner, and I could have went back to Seattle and probably got my old apartment back. I was living in Capitol Hill at that time, not too far off of Broadway and Pike, as a matter of fact. So I could have probably got my apartment back. The apartment I really wanted was the 801 apartments downtown. But those are very spendy. Even from back then, it was very spendy. So I moved from Seattle to here back in '96, the latter part of '96. And it didn't work out. And you know how it is when you buy a shoe, or you see some shoes that you really, really like, and they're like a size smaller than your foot, but they're the last pair, and they're all sold out except for that one pair. So you're bound and determined to get that foot inside that shoe. Well, I spent the next 96, 2006, 2016, the next 22 or 23 years trying to get my foot inside the shoe, and it just didn't work. Anyway, the woman I came out here for, she ended up getting married to the guy she was still in love with She hunted him down for 20 some years, and she begged and pleaded, and finally he decided to marry her. And long story short, I want to move back to Seattle now, but I cannot do it because the rent is ridiculously high. But when I was in Seattle, it was love at first sight. Everything about Seattle, the smells, the sounds, the sights, the cobblestones down at the Pike Place Market, the fish market, the Brass Pig, the Olympic Cafe, which used to be right up the street from the Pike Place Market. All of that stuff was just really just beautiful. I walked everywhere when I lived in Seattle. I lived in Capitol Hill. I used to walk down the hill to go to the Pike Place Market. Being an artist, I worked at an art gallery on the second floor going downstairs. I used to walk to the Space Needle. I used to walk up into Queen Anne from downtown Seattle. I used to walk up into Queen Anne, and I used to go to this little coffee shop. They had homemade soup. I used to get the chicken and wild rice soup a couple times a week. It was really nice. And then I would walk back down, and I would catch the monorail from the Space Needle back to the Westlake Shopping Center, stop in at Tucci Banucci, and I have something to eat there. And then I would go to the Pike Place Market, pick up some things to take home with me so I could cook, and I would walk up the hill to get back home. I'm a little overweight now. Many years have passed. I'm 52. I was in my early 20s when I lived there. So I'm 52 now. And like a stupid idiot, I moved. And I might not ever be able to move back unless God opens up a door for me to walk through again and makes it okay. Until then, I just do artwork of Seattle, paintings, digital paintings, and I collect photographs of Seattle. I've got 2 or 3 large photographs of the aerial view of Seattle, Space Needle, Puget Sound, going all the way into downtown. I've got some with the ferry boats and things that I've framed, and some that I'm going to frame that I hang in my apartment. Just wishing I could move back to Seattle. But I refuse to be homeless when I get there. Because once you're homeless, you're stuck. Because nobody really gives a crap about you if you're homeless. I've been in talks with the city council and the mayor because I want to clean up Seattle, and I want to fix Seattle, and I want the cost of living to come down. I want the rents to come down. And I'm in the process of starting a class action lawsuit against the state of Washington on behalf of the citizens of the state that are unable to do any kind of rent restrictions on any landlords or property owners. So I'm going to let you go with that. If my videos seem a little too ranty and I seem a little too angry, please just leave a comment and say, hey, I like what you're saying, but your videos are coming off a little harsh. Could you please soften them up a little bit? And I'll try. But I don't know what's bothering you if you don't tell me. So please just, leave a comment down below. If I say something that offends you, please just say, hey, that hurt my feelings. I understand what you were saying, but it still hurt my feelings. And I'll apologize to you till the day is long. I really will. I'm a nice guy. I just love Seattle enough, and it just pains me every time when I find out how badly Seattle is doing and how poorly people are actually living in Seattle, even the ones that have billions of dollars that are struggling because they can't get any Cristal because it's all overpriced now and they can't afford it anymore. But anyway, this has been All Things Considered, because I consider all things.